Welcome back and welcome to Matcha Minutes, where we talk about what's going on in our world, in our community, in our neighborhood. Today, we have a very special guest, Danial Wilson, who happens to be our very first guest of our very first show back almost a year ago.
It's been a while there now, so
Thank you for coming back. Danial is the owner and operator of Wild Oak Academy. And today's topic really is childcare, accountability, and trust. And so the goal is to talk about what's going on in the childcare world and some of the fraud that we've seen in some of these other communities, and hopefully getting us an idea of really how does this impact our world, our community, and our state.
yeah, I'll do my best to answer some of the questions that a lot of people have around that. How does Kansas differ from Minnesota, which has really been one of the huge states and topics that's going on right now? We do things better, in my opinion, on certain things. We also there's ways to improve the system always, but try to answer anything I can.
Before we get into that, you were the first guest on our show. So what's changed the most for you since that first conversation?
Ooh, it's honestly hard to think about the last time I was here, when that even was. 'Cause so much happened in such a short amount of time. You know, um, we're working on our third location, which is awesome and a hassle all at the same exact time.
Uh-huh.
We're doing a lot of improvements in the buildings to really show parents that we provide as much value as possible, and it's not about taking every dollar we can from the working parents. So,
For listeners who don't know your story, remind us, what is Wild Oak Academy? How did it get started? How did you get here?
Wild Oak Academy is a childcare center. Well, centers now. Some that we're continuing to grow all the time. Honestly, just got here by accident. Had no intention of ever even being in childcare ever. Wasn't ever even something on my radar, and I got here by accident. And the fact that my wife is a teacher and she loves teaching, and ultimately the first job I took after being a pizza delivery driver was in childcare, working on the military base with their summer program. And I only took that job to hang out with her over the summers. And then after that, it kind of just grew and grew and grew. We've taken one step at a time. We went from teacher to assistant director to director to owner, and it all happened fast within 3 years. And then that was roughly 3 years ago that we took over for the first time, and been up and down with everything. So, and the world's changed a lot since then, and rules have changed a lot since then. And every day is an adjustment to try to be the best we can.
What's interesting is I recall the story, it started during COVID though, and you working multiple jobs and then trying to find a safe space for your child. Is that right?
Yes. So, my first full time job, not a summer job, was as a teacher. And then that was before my son was born. So, it was actually 2018 was the very first time I took a job as a teacher full time. I did that for 1 year and 3 months. And the only reason I left that job, because I actually really enjoyed that job as a teacher and being a preschool teacher, because my son was born and it was so incredibly expensive in childcare then and now still, that I had to transition out so that I could stay home during the day, because even working in the field in that business, what they were asking for me to pay for still just honestly wasn't worth my time at the point.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of, initially put us on the journey of, at some point I came up with the idea to want to own mine. Now, I didn't act on it for several years,
Mm-hmm.
but that's kind of where that dream started, was the difficulty that I faced as a teacher with my own child and wanting to be in the field. And how could I make it different, and what can I provide to be different at some point? So, when we got that opportunity, we've done our best to be different in that regards.
What responsibility comes with owning and operating a childcare center beyond just running a business?
There is so much that comes with it. A lot of people really don't understand genuinely what we do, what it is we do. They just think we watch kids all day. And to an extent, that really, I mean, that's like the bare minimum. Yes, we watch kids, we take care of kids. But at least on my end, I have this expectation that we want to progress childcare forward and not just be watching kids all day. We want to be teaching. Right now, our field is considered a lower tier job in the economy. And that being said, if childcare just up and quit, the economy would really struggle because parents wouldn't have anywhere to take their kids.
Mhm.
And so I really want to push childcare forward and education so that we can reach that level to where we're viewed equally as teachers. Will we get there? Maybe. Well, maybe not. I can't say that we'll ever be on, that level. But I want people to see the value of what it is that we do all the time. And it's not just taking care of kids. We're teaching them anything from talking to walking to writing so that they're going into kindergarten in the school district on a better platform than if they were just being watched all day long and making sure that they weren't putting their fingers in outlets. So,
Does it bother you when people refer to you as a daycare?
yes, it does. And that's going to be a hard stereotype to change just in general. Because, I mean, you break it down, we literally are day care.
Sure.
But, we want to be viewed as early childhood education. Changing that's going to be hard. And we do our best to make sure that we're showing parents the value in that, in what we do, so that, they begin to see us that way. Because it's only when parents see us that way will things, start to change. We do things like parent teacher conferences, just like the school district. We really are trying to prepare parents for when they go into school so that's not culture shock for the kids. It's not culture shock for the parents. So,
What do parents in Kansas really want from a childcare provider today?
ooh, want and need are very different there in that scenario.
Sure.
Parents want cheap childcare,
Yes.
and I would say that's probably the number one question. And they want safety for their children. After that, it's different, difficult. Where do you, I mean, where do you value the safety of your children? Are you okay spending the extra money? Are you not okay? It's a hard conversation to have. And then there are instances, where things happen at places that are, lesser expensive, and it becomes, could I have maybe prevented that had I gone somewhere else? So,
Childcare is just one of those fields where people only see the surface. They see their kids dropped off, picked up, they see classrooms and staff, but there's a whole other side to it, which brings us into a bigger conversation. When you look at the industry nationally, fraud has become very prevalent. Can you talk a little bit about what's going on nationally from the fraud perspective?
so genuinely, I think fraud occurs in every field. I don't think it's just our field. I think right now our field is the hot topic. That being said, I didn't really think it was that big of an issue till I started seeing it become national news. And I started looking deeper into, why aren't we seeing those types of things happen more in, Kansas? And
Mhm.
so I've learned a little bit more myself about other states and how they do things. The biggest thing that Kansas does differently is those, or sorry, let's rewind. Minnesota, they fund centers and daycares directly. So it's on the daycare to let the government know how many kids they have, who needs government assistance, who doesn't. Kansas is not like that. They're the complete opposite. So in Kansas, it's on the parents' responsibility to go to DCF, Department of Child and Family Services, and let them know, hey, I'm not financially there yet. And then they apply for assistance. Now, after you've applied, Kansas has what's called EBT, and it can be card, it can be a phone transfer, an account that after DCF has decided how much funds you qualify based on your income, what you bring in, all of that. They fund this account that is only able to be used with childcare providers. So then on our end as childcare providers, we go to DCF and we apply to be a DCF provider. And you got to take some extra things in there, but then those funds are given to the families, and it's the family's responsibility to make all the reports there and make the payments, which does help eliminate some of that because I, as a business, cannot just put an extra 10 kids on the roster in that scenario, regardless of how easy or hard it is. I can't control that and do it that way. It's up to the family to do it. So that does take away some of that issue there. Now, there's ways on our end to commit fraud as well. It's becomes on a much smaller scale though, because you're having to deal with individual families to try to do that. And then you create a system in that scenario where if you are trying to do that, where you're hoping that this family doesn't talk to this family, that doesn't talk to this family, that doesn't talk to this family, and then they'll, report you. Whereas if you're in Minnesota, from what I read, when you're there, the center is reporting how many kids and stuff. So it creates a reliance on families to be in on it as well. And with crime, nobody wants to include. You want to keep your people close. So it's a lot harder on our end.
So talk a little bit about Minnesota and how it happened and what exactly happened.
So, from my understanding, and there is not an ounce of me that believes it is one group of people doing this. I truly believe it's probably happening statewide. It's probably happening across multiple states. I have a little bit better understanding of our directly surrounding states, Missouri, Oklahoma, Colorado, Nebraska. But the centers there, especially when government is in a position where they're stretched more thin and they're not auditing things, centers have the ability to just, create families and send them in the bill. If you're not charging a real family, the number for childcare could be outrageous. I could be saying, hey, every kid is $500 a week. And if you've got multiple people, if I'm $500 a week, the place down the street is going to start to raise their prices because they know they can get away with it. Not get away with it, but they know that there's room there. So they start pushing those prices upwards, which means those centers can then charge more. And on paper, they charge more. So now there are some things where they're showing up to places and they have no kids, or they're being told they're not allowed in. And they're making that a big deal, which is crazy because we don't let people in that just show up. We have 2 sets of locked doors that you got to make it through at location 1. The other one has a remote controlled lock that you just can't walk in and open the door. Alarm 1 is always somebody just walking in and opening and trying to pull on the door. Alarm 2 is when they pull it, realize it's locked, and instead of ringing the doorbell, they start pulling harder. Drives me insane. But there's instances where people are upset that they're not being allowed in like that, and they're saying that that's a form of confirmation of fraud without ever making it in and seeing anything. But at the same time, there's so many rules and regulations around childcare that prohibits people from seeing kids. We have agreements that parents have to sign to allow us to post pictures of their kids on Facebook and stuff like that. So childcare as a whole isn't a lot on social media because of stuff like that already. And I think it just, because of the frustration overall with, 1 or 2 that are probably really not childcare centers at all. They probably really are just
fronts.
Yeah, really. And I'm sure it happens that it kind of casts a shadow on everybody else, where centers that are prepared for you to show up and they don't want you there because it creates situations that are hard to tell parents about. Hey, we just let somebody in and take videos of your kids. Or, even the news. Like if the news shows up, they can't just walk in and video kids because they don't have media releases from parents. So I think a lot of it is just a giant misunderstanding and misconception of childcare. I think fraud is occurring, but I don't think it's on the grand scale that it is being put out there to be. I think for the most part, most people are just trying to do the right thing and get by.
So in Minnesota, the child care center says I have X amount of kids.
Mhm.
Of these X amount of kids, 7 qualify for DCF.
Mhm.
I submit names, fictitious dates of birth,
Yep.
fictitious social security numbers.
Nope, you don't have to sit. There's no socials, and in Kansas, at least, when we do our paperwork, we are required to have medical information, but we don't turn that over to the state at any point unless it's required for some sort of investigation. So they could come in and audit us and then see that, but realistically, their only goal is to come in if something's wrong. So unless you're getting complaints about your paperwork, at least in Kansas, then they're not checking that paperwork except once a year, really. So
Okay. What lessons should childcare owners take from the Minnesota situation?
in Kansas, just be transparent. It's pretty easy. Just be transparent. As transparent as you can be, obviously you're not going to answer kids' date of births and stuff like that to random people, but schedule tours for the public. Let them come in. I had a lady one time, she wanted to come in and take pictures. It was a grandma. She was trying to do like a tour kind of for her daughter who was coming back from Hawaii. And she's like, can I take pictures? And I'm like, you can take pictures of all our common areas, but you cannot take a picture of a classroom. Take picture anything in the hallway you want. Front area, office, kitchen if you really want. But when it comes to the classroom, I told her, I'm like, hey, certain kids can't be in photos. And then on top of it, if you're a private person, like I don't like who knows what you're gonna do with it potentially, regardless of your spoken intentions. So just be transparent. We keep all of every ounce of information that's in a classroom is also outside of a classroom. That way, if somebody comes in to tour, they can see everything. They can see the rooms if they'd like. They can interact with teachers if they want. But transparency is always the best way to go.
If we shift from fraud to abuse, how much abuse are we seeing in childcare centers in Kansas?
Less than you would think, I would say. Kansas, for the most part, does a decent job at monitoring that. That being said, it also comes down to, how well it can be hidden. There's, unfortunately, in our field, the biggest frustration I have with it is that when it comes down to incidents occurring. So if something happens, not just abuse, just overall in general, this is the issue I see, is if something occurs, the penalty for reporting it yourself and hiding it and it being found out are the exact same. So if something happens and I report it, then
When you would say reporter, you're talking about self-reporting.
yeah. So if I go out and self-report anything that happens, because everybody is human, people, the directors that run the buildings, the owners, it typically is not them, and incidents do occur across the field.
Give us an
Accident.
example of something that would be self-reported.
Okay, an incident we self-reported. Shortly after we initially opened, we had a teacher aggressively set down a child.
Okay.
Terminated. We turned it over to the state, let them know. We gave them video of it. Very minor overall, very minor. Minor to the point where most places are not going to self-report it. But I turn it over, I face the same penalty as if I hide it and somebody finds out. So, unfortunately, our field, I don't want to say it rewards, but it's almost, I see why people hide things because it's like if I turn it over myself, I could face the same penalty as if I try to hide it. You know what I mean? So it makes it difficult to always do the right thing and self-report. That's a hard pill to swallow in our field, and it's something that I think truly does need to be corrected because without it, you will see people continue to fight it.
You get a lot of instances where people will make accusations or file complaints anonymously.
Oh, 100%. Especially, unfortunately, as an owner, I've seen it more where in our field, if you can report everything anonymously. You can report your own screw ups anonymously. So as a teacher, if I do something that is not liked, I can, and I'm terminated for it. I can then go online and anonymously report what I got fired for.
Let's go back to your example of setting the child down aggressively.
Mhm.
So you fired that teacher.
Yep.
She could have left. Now, this didn't happen, did it?
No,
But she could have left and said, and filed a complaint online, I assume.
Yep.
Anonymously to say, hey, there was a teacher that set a kid down aggressively.
Yep. I mean, she could have done that. Yes, she didn't.
And then what would have happened? What does that trigger?
A lot of different things.
Okay.
So initially, if there's a complaint made, then there's an investigation, and depending on how everything is done, it can lead to different responses. How cooperative you are with them, which you should always be cooperative.
And these are responses by KDHE, Kansas Department of Health and Environment. Okay.
Yes, I'll give you a better example. So I have had so we had an employee at our second location right after we opened. She was terminated for allowing a baby to fall asleep in a swing.
Okay.
Let me just say, 99% of parents allow their kids to fall asleep in swings. It's against our rules, so we enforce it. But most parents would not second guess watching their infant fall asleep in a swing.
I would say that my children probably both fell asleep in a swing at some point.
Oh, mine at home, definitely.
Uh-huh.
However, it was early on into opening our second building. And so after you open, you're on a temporary license. And so you get a temporary license for 60 days or 30 to 60 days, depending. So this employee is unhappy about it. So she had a little one with us in our 1-year-old room. And so she filed a report with police detective, filed a report anonymously with KDHE that we abused her child, which keep cameras in your classrooms. Absolutely will save you a lot of headache. However, the complaint process, though, is if you list out a bunch of things in a complaint, but you can name one thing that's true and that's validated by KDHE, then the whole complaint is considered substantiated and true. So in this complaint, it was listed that we beat her child, abused her child. And then in the complaint, though, she mentioned that kid fell asleep in a swing. So police come out and we keep cameras in the classroom. They clear us of all of that. However, our complaint with KDHE was substantiated because kid fell asleep in the swing. It happened. She was fired for it. It's why she wasn't there, but she was angry. She was fired. She was able to file the complaint. And so we had to deal with the repercussions of that. You know, it meant a lot of months of work on my end dealing with stuff that I don't think we should have had to deal with over this issue that was false. That the main complaint was false. The issue about child falling asleep in the swing was true. But once again, she was terminated for it. What else was I supposed to do? You know, I didn't even get an opportunity to self-report that because I had a police detective there within a couple hours.
Do you think Kansas is strong when it comes to oversight and compliance and accountability?
I think that it's a area that it could use improvements.
Wow. That's pretty strong words. You have centers in 3 different locations.
Yes, we do.
Do you have the same person that comes and inspects each? Is that what they do? Is that an inspector?
It's a surveyor.
A surveyor. So
Yep.
does this? Do you have the same surveyor for all your locations?
No, every county has its own surveyor. The the crazy part about the surveyor thing that I just learned not that long ago is they are monitored and ran by KDHE, but they're employed by the county, which is weird to think about because the KDHE doesn't hire these people, but they're enforcing KDHE's rules.
What department in the county?
The health departments for each county.
So the health department hires
The
these
local
people,
health departments hire these people. Yes,
and they report to KDHE, or they just work with KDHE.
both.
Okay.
Kind of this weird dynamic that I've learned, and I'm not sure how it really works because if you have a bad surveyor, KDHE can't fire them. The local health departments have to do that. Now, they probably have quite a bit of input at the state level to call their local health departments and be like, you got an issue there, but no, they can't just fire them. There's a lot that goes into it.
So what's it like if you have three different surveyors because you're in three different areas? Do they all see things the same way? How do you go from one center to the next? I would imagine with different people, the rules would be slightly different.
So with KDHE, the rule book is not a rule book, it's a guidebook, a guide on how to interpret the rules for them.
So it's not black and white.
No. So on our end, we get a black and white set of rules, but the rules are wrote with a lot of gray area for the surveyors to interpret themselves. And so that does create a lot of differing things across counties, and you get a lot of things that are changed, and people misunderstand as surveyors the rules because of that interpretation. Um, everybody's human. A lot of times your surveys can be based on how they're feeling in those days.
So whether they're ill or not.
Yep.
What about relationships with the owners? Certainly that's got to be the same or consistent amongst all the different centers.
I don't have much to say on that one because I don't really have a great relationship with our surveyors.
Okay.
So I'm going to shy away from that one.
Okay. Fair. Where do you think when we talk about all these different things of accountability and compliance, where do we fall? Where does Kansas still vulnerable?
That's a good question. I think our biggest issue is we want to do things better in the sense that we want to make it more affordable for parents. We want to make it easier to open up more. But with rules that are so gray or left for interpretation, it leads to having to have conversations about the rules that they don't necessarily want to have because our state legislators make those rules. KDHE doesn't make those rules. They're the enforcing. Our rules are made through state legislature that they vote on, that the House and the Senate all vote on. And a lot of times those rules are made by people who have not been in a childcare facility, who are going off their own experiences with children or their own experience as parents, which when you made it that high up in state legislature, a lot of times you're haven't been a parent to a little one from 0 to 6 in many, many years. A lot of those guys and women are 30 to 40, haven't been a parent to a 0 to 6-year-old in years. So, and I have to give KDHE some credit. They try their best to really take what they are given and make it as easy as possible. But there's so many rules in there that could be gone with that are there from a long time ago, and So they're
You mean streamlined? We could reduce the number of rules they have to follow.
not reduce the number of rules we have to follow, but like there are some things in there that just they don't apply anymore. We did just redo the rules in 2024, but we redid the rules and then it was like a madhouse because nobody knew what we were enforcing with the new rules. I mean, some of the rules contradicted themselves. I spent several meetings with KDHE representations because I was confused because somebody would tell me something. I read the rule. To me, it's something different. I ask somebody else. They realize that the rule contradicts another rule in there, and that makes it tough. But like those things should have been cleaned up in the initial legislative process. But once again, ADHE isn't the one making those rules; they're just enforcing them. I would like to see more state legislators take initiative and visit places, and visit centers and see where they could change things for better for us. So,
What are the biggest red flags families should watch for when choosing a childcare provider?
ooh, anywhere that won't let you just pop in for a tour. I always tell parents you can come in whenever you want. Like it does not bother me if you want to come in and sit all day long with your kid in a classroom. That is fine by me. Uh, if you want to stop in and just come see them, it does make it a little bit difficult on the kids seeing you after they're normally just used to being picked up. But if you want to come in and just pop in and your kid can handle it, I have no issue with you just stopping by. If you want to come eat lunch with the kids, no issues. Staying for a little while kind of creates a little bit of trouble because KDHE says they technically shouldn't be there. But if they want to come in and hang out for a little bit and volunteer a little bit, I have zero issues with that. But anywhere that says we can't do it, they can't just take a tour randomly, then watch out for that. Watch out for if you are touring, anybody that wants to skip any rooms means they're not comfortable with those rooms in front of parents. Um, and I would say if you're touring, just really look and see what value those centers are offering outside of just you can drop your kid off here. How are they incorporating technology? Are they providing stuff for your little ones? Are you having to provide more as a parent? So
How do you build a culture where staff understands that safety, honesty, and accountability matter just as much as care and education?
culture is built on enforcement. How hard are you enforcing your rules? Um, there's also a balance to that too. Unfortunately, uh, our field is already viewed as expensive. So raising prices to afford people that are even more qualified is harder. Um, so from day one, you need to make sure that you're enforcing all of your rules. If you can do that, then you'll be better off. And also listen. I mean, listen to your employees, see where you do have gaps because they, as an owner, I'm not in a classroom every single day. I do like to be in classrooms here and there and help out as much as I can, get them things, give them breaks, all of that. But I mean, they're going to have ideas if you're not open to improving based on their ideas, then you don't create a culture to where they feel like they need to listen to you because you're not listening to them. And if they don't listen to you, then you've got all sorts of problems. And trying to get them to understand your goals is important to balancing that safety as well as your education and not just somewhere the kids hang out, somebody to supervise the kids all day long.
How much turnover do you have in your field?
I actually just did this number. So the national average is around 45 to 50%. So national average. Right now we're at 67%. If they last longer than 90 days, we're at 72%, which is good. Um, that's a hard one though, because unfortunately, most people know in the first, I don't know, shift or two of working in a center where you have a pretty good idea who's going to stay and who's not going to. It just is written on them in their faces. You can kind of tell pretty quickly, which affects turnover.
Mhm.
Affects that number, even though most of the time they don't. I mean, most people will flare out in a week, just because it's not for everybody. I mean, I'm never going to say it's a hard field because we watch children for a living. We're not doing a lot of jobs that are out there right now. But I mean, it can be challenging. It's hard to keep your cool a lot when I mean, you got little people that are telling you no and running around, throwing shoes at you, um, sitting at you. It's hard to keep your cool. So that turnover number is down across the field. Something that we're always working on improving. So,
What do you want people to know about specifically about Wild Oak Academy?
our goal is always to provide the best experience for you as a parent, as well as for a kid. Um, yes, we are a bit more expensive. I fully understand that, but we provide, in my opinion, so much out there to try to make parents' lives easier in every aspect. And we are very transparent about anything that happens. And I understand that sometimes being transparent, you'll lose families because they're just not as happy with certain things. Um, but you'll never get, you know, a lie from us to that, to them. I'm going to tell you the truth as much as it hurts or doesn't hurt. So
We're going to shift to our second segment now, which is a little more fun. I appreciate all the comments on childcare centers. I know it's not easy being an entrepreneur and a business owner. I'm sure you have a lot of challenges in just managing the number of people you have to manage. But this one's a little more fun. We call it the rapid fire questions, the mix of personal, family, and just to let people get to know you a little bit better.
Okay.
Number one, coffee or energy drink?
ooh, I drink coffee every day, but I really like strawberry or watermelon Red Bull.
Okay. Early bird or night owl?
Oh, early bird. Up early, and I'm asleep by 9 o'clock almost every night.
Favorite breakfast food?
McDonald's bacon, egg, and cheese bagel.
Favorite comfort food?
I don't know if I have a favorite comfort food.
Big family gathering or small quiet night at home?
Ooh, I guess that one depends more on my mood. I prefer to stay at home, but every once in a while, I like to get everybody together.
In your family, who keeps everyone laughing?
My son,
Okay.
he is a jokester for sure.
Who in the family keeps everyone in line?
That is that one's me.
Favorite holiday memory with family?
Ooh, specifically to a holiday. Um, that one's tough. I love all of the holidays quite a bit, but probably my son last Christmas came out and his Lego set was built by Santa already ready for him to go and play.
Beach vacation or mountain trip?
Um, my wife would say beach vacation. I really don't care for the beach that much. I'm gonna go mountain.
Really? Wow. Biggest pet peeve?
Telling me you're gonna do something and then not doing it.
Ooh. Most used app on your phone?
Somewhere between email, text, and then probably X,
Okay.
which is Twitter, by the way. I just want to clarify that real fast.
If you were not in childcare, what would you be doing?
Ooh, that's a good one. I mean, for the longest time, I thought I was going to play professional baseball, but
That's an interesting story because you played baseball in college.
I thought I would still be doing it to this day. But at
Where
5'8", it does not work out a lot.
Where did you play college baseball?
I play college baseball at Grambling State as well as Allen County Community College.
Okay. Okay. What was it like attending a HBCU?
It was a good experience. It changed my perspective on a lot in the world. One thing that if I could wish anybody to do, I think they should, because it's hard to go and be the minority somewhere and not just want to leave.
Sure.
And it was a good experience. I loved it.
If one song you never get tired of.
Would never get tired. Um, I don't know. I thought I'd be tired of the freaking K-pop Demon Hunters soundtrack that my daughter has me listening to, but I've yet to not listen to it every single day on the way to school. So
Best piece of advice you've ever gotten.
live with no regrets. I try to absolutely take that one
Okay.
literally every day.
What food says family to you?
Steak.
All right. Are you usually the one hosting or the one showing up late?
Ooh, I prefer to be on time.
Mm-hmm.
I would say we're the ones that are on time, yeah. But I do like to host, just not every weekend.
What is one tradition you never want your family to lose?
Ooh. I don't know. We don't have a whole lot of traditions at our house right now.
Mhm.
My wife really wants to do some, but I mean, right now every summer we've taken a road trip, so I guess that would be it. And I hope we
Okay.
get to continue to do that.
What do you value most about family?
The loyalty that comes with it.
Okay. Why don't you look at the camera, tell everybody where they can get more information about Wild Oak Academy. They can learn more about what you're doing, and maybe, if they're interested in doing a tour, they can reach you at.
You can check us out at wildoakacademy.com. We have a Facebook for every single center right now, so you can check out specific locations there. But on the website, there's contact for each location. You can email each director specifically. If you fill out a contact, just a generic one, that comes directly to me, and you'll hear directly from me every single time. We are on TikTok, actually.
Okay.
Not a lot, but we are on there. Like, our renovations are up on there. You can see some of it. You can read our blog on our website as well. Yeah.
Daniel, thanks again for coming in. Like I said at the top, you were the very first guest on the show, so it's great to have you back and have this conversation on such a deeper level. I mean, you're so much further into childcare ownership and being an entrepreneur. You talked a lot today about fraud and about what's going on in the world and why Kansas is different. So I really appreciate your time. For those of you out there who enjoy our content, please like and subscribe so we can continue bringing you this content. That was your Matcha's Minute for the week. Stay tuned for next week, where we'll bring you another episode on another topic.
And if you're lucky, you'll catch us on Shark Tank.